Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast, brought to you by Violet Defense. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products, or if you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and experience you need. Thanks again to Violet Defense for sponsoring the Educational AD Podcast. The FIAAA also wants to thank our other great sponsors, including our diamond sponsors, Varsity Brands, featuring BSN, Varsity Spirit, and Herff Jones. Varsity Brands, elevating student experiences in sport, spirit, and achievement. We also want to thank our other diamond sponsor, Hometown Ticketing. Hometown Ticketing helps thousands of schools across the country seamlessly provide convenient digital ticketing options for their communities, families, and fans. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to thank our great platinum sponsors, including Gipper, sports graphics made incredibly simple. Vital Signs, bring student achievements to life. Ephesus Lighting, innovating a brighter future at every level. Camp Mobile, where leaders communicate better. And Booster Digital Displays, revolutionize your game day experience. Thanks to all of our great FIAAA sponsors. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast, brought to you by Violet Defense. Our guest today is Tina Queen. Tina is a certified athletic administrator, and she's the director of athletics at Reginald Lewis High School in Baltimore, Maryland. Tina, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We're excited to hear what's going on up in your neck of the woods. So for our listeners, we're recording this on July 15th. So this is going to be pretty timely information. Tina, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school and college, and maybe that path that brought you to your current position.
Well, I'm born and raised in East Baltimore. I went to the legendary Dunbar High School.
Oh, yeah.
In late 80s, early 90s. Don't want to tell my age, but
you're just a kid, okay?
And I actually went to Coppin. It was Coppin State. Now it's Coppin University. On a full ride for basketball. People don't know it, but I was actually a nursing student. I was a nursing student for, actually I was in the program for the entire program until I had to do my clinical. And when it came time to do my clinicals, I couldn't do the rotations in the hospital because of my basketball scholarship. So I got kicked out. But thankfully, I had so many of the science credits, like the kinesiology and I had all of those science credits. I was able to switch over to adaptive PE. Mm-hmm. So I was able to switch pretty easily. I was heartbroken, but it worked out for the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I remember the same, they're similar, I didn't know what I wanted to major in. I just knew, I wanted to go to college and continue with sports. So, I took all the sciences, I took all the required courses, and, my junior, senior year, I had settled on coaching and education. It was a very relaxed 2 years there. So I can relate. Yeah. We'll talk about, go ahead.
The best decision of my life. to
Oh,
actually make that switch.
yeah. No, I mean, it's funny when you look back at those, twists and turns of the path that we have gotten on. Talk about that path, so after graduation, talk about some of those early jobs, teaching and coaching that led to your position as an athletic director.
When like I said, I was an adaptive PE major at Coppin. So I was able to work with I don't know if many of you remember the NYSP program. I worked for the National Youth Sports Program, and it was in a lot of the colleges. My director of his name was Dr. Tucker. He ended up employing me during the summer, and I started as the little basketball instructor. Then I worked my way up to the liaison, and I just kind of started really falling in love with working with the youth. So I went from there. I started working at the Bear School as a just for service hours. The Bear School is one of the schools for it's an adaptive school for students who have severe disabilities, and it was the most rewarding thing I could have ever done. Just working with students who, don't have the ability as many of us, and just to do some of the simpler things of just to be able to hold a ball and let it roll. And I felt like working with the Bear School led me to want to work with Special Olympics and Unified. I went to Southwestern with my first school. I didn't get hired as an adaptive PE teacher, which I wanted to do. They only had a regular position. I went in, nothing like I wanted to experience, because I was looking for something else, and I wasn't getting it, because I wanted to work with adaptive. I wanted to do adaptive. So then I had to kind of reshift my focus. So I got more in tune with athletics. So I started coaching, coaching badminton. That was my first sport, believe it or not. Because in high school it's hard to get those basketball jobs. It's kind of hard. So I had to start with the little sports, and I went from badminton to volleyball. Finally, I was able to coach JV boys basketball.
Oh, wow. I mean, I'm always curious, and again, you're a little bit younger than I am, but I think we're still probably from that same era. How was that? Because that would have been back in, say, the earlier days. How was that, as a woman with a strong basketball background, obviously, how was that coaching boys?
It was challenging at first. I'm not even going to tell. It was challenging, just trying to gain the trust of them, and getting out there. I had to perform, play with them, just so that they can say, okay, she knows what she's talking about. So, and I thought the perspective of a woman coaching a male sport, well, not a male sport, but coaching males.
Right.
Females tend to focus more on fundamentals, more than skill set. So being able to teach the JV the proper skills that's needed to play actually benefited the varsity, because those kids, I felt my kids were, not patting myself on the back, I felt like those kids were ready for varsity because they had the skill set and they didn't go to varsity with bad habits. And I think sometimes our kids they tend to come to us with bad habits, and it's hard to break. So I just felt like I gave a different perspective as a woman coaching males. And I think with the personality of my varsity coach, Mr. Terry Leverett, he was a strong, and I was kind of like, less. So he was like hot and I was cold. So we kind of, meshed pretty well together. So it kind of worked. So it went well, and we won. We won. A lot of winning.
Yeah, no, but again, I'm always curious as to, those stories that end
Mm-hmm.
up making us who we are. And as you know, you've been doing this for a long time. The
Mm-hmm.
world is full of, great basketball players, men and women, who
Mm-hmm.
just don't have that coaching or teaching tool in their toolbox. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, you had that teaching tool in yours to
Right.
get the job done. Let our listeners know about, again, that transition from teacher coach into
Mm-hmm.
AD. How did that occur?
Um, that was that was hard. The transition to athletic director was hard, from teachers to coach to athletic director, for the simple fact the AD duties is more administrative, and I wanted to focus, and my love is still working with the kids. So I was dealing more with other athletic directors, administrators. I was dealing more with the administrators in the building, constantly on the phone, scheduling buses. And I was missing the interaction with the kids. And I thought that, I couldn't, I needed to find a balance. And so I just had to make sure that I still had that interaction with the kids. So I had to start planning time to still do the things that keep you humble. And the kids humble you often. They will humble you. It's and I think for myself, keeping in touch with the kids and making sure that I have a relationship with those kids, because that's in order to fully get in order to fully get everything out of a person or a student, you have to understand them. You have to know where they come from. You know, you have to realize that everyone doesn't have the same home life as the next kid. Mm-hmm. So you have to tap into what it is that's going to make them tick. And so I realized that the only way that I can get my kids to perform is to tell them, unless they have a why, they will never amount to their full potential. When anytime you do something, you have to have a why. And that was one of the things. So every time, and I have students that still keep in contact with me via Facebook, and they always say to Miss Queen, they say, the one thing that they remember, I always told them, is, what's your why? And they still to this day, what's the why?
No, and that's so true. Whether it's you're working with kids or whether you're working with your coaches or even parents sometimes, is being able to understand and articulate and use your why. Tina, you talked about it a little bit, but I'm going to ask you to go a little bit deeper. In our profession, we always talk about the importance of leadership and particularly mentorship. So I'm curious, who are some of your mentors growing up? Maybe, family members or coaches or even people that you've worked with or worked for. Whose voice do you still hear in your head when you're talking to a kid or a coach?
Professionally, some of my mentors, some of my mentors, was definitely, it was Mr. Dave Lang. He was my first athletic director. Linda Mitchell Holmes, she was the one who kind of molded me at Coppin. Then, of course, the legendary Bob Wade. I got my toughness, he was, it was just tough. And he also, it's funny because he was my athletic director in high school. And then I ended up working for him in Baltimore City. Jessica Ivy, she was our physical education person. And she was just always so, she was very poised, and she was just very articulate. She was very, I thought that was something that I took from her.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. I always love to hear the stories of, those people that have touched, your lives. It's just a great
Mhm.
reminder that we didn't get here by
Mhm.
ourselves. We had those
Mhm.
people helping us, sometimes pushing us.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
anybody else you can share with us?
Yes. My mom, of course, my mom, you know, she, although I came from a two-parent home, um, my mom was the backbone. She, she was the hardest working woman I ever met. Um, she's from, down south. So, she didn't have, she didn't finish high school. My dad didn't, my dad didn't even go to high school. My parents were older when they had me. So, and my mom used to say, "Baby, you was a oops baby." She used to always call me a oops baby because they were older. So, and my brothers and sisters were older than me. So, yeah, she just worked. Like, I didn't get to see her much because she worked so much, taking care of the household. And my dad, he had romantic fever or something, and it caused him, one of his legs didn't work. He had a limp, severe limp. So I guess back then I didn't know nothing about this. I guess disabilities and stuff like that. And he really didn't work. But my mom, she worked, took care of five. It was five of us, five kids. But she ended up, before I could graduate college, she ended up dying from cancer. She didn't have we didn't have medical insurance. So
Well, Tina, I really appreciate you sharing that. Obviously, your parents had a
yeah.
great impact on you and your mom, and
Well, absolutely.
yeah.
She just taught me, even though I'm emotional, she always taught me to, never make excuses, never let your home situation, you don't want people to feel sorry for you. She was just one of those type of people. She said, you get out there, you grind. That was her mentality. Like, you get out there, you work. If anything in life is heavy, work. Don't allow people to give you anything.
Well, just talking to you here a little bit now, I can tell that, that love you have for your mom is shown and
Yeah.
expressed in how you deal with the kids that you come in contact with. What a great
Oh,
legacy and what a great
I,
way to honor her memory.
oh, absolutely. She, like I said, she was a wonderful person. And, it was just, I never forget the time when, because I was actually a better track runner than I was a sprinter and a high jumper. And I was being recruited from Morgan and some other schools for track. And I got turned off because I didn't realize, because when I was telling you about kids who have skill sets, I was just fast, you know. But I never worked on my craft. Like, I was never one of those ones that was at the track constantly working on my form. I was just gifted. I just had speed. And so the coach came and he was like, I can do this with you. We're gonna build this. You're gonna, 4 or 5 in the morning practices. I'm saying, huh? And he's talking about and I'm saying, I don't know if I want to do this. So then I was at a track meet. No lie, I was at a track meet. And the basketball coach from Coppin was there he was there to see a relative of his run. And they saw me, and so he said, "Hey, young lady," he was like, you play basketball?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." And he was like, "Oh, okay." So he said, "You mind coming to an open gym?" So I went to an open gym, and I was, of course, because I'm over 6 feet, I'm the center. So I was inbounding the ball, beating everybody down the court, waiting for the layup. He was like, "Oh, I got to come sign you." So he comes to my house, sits down with my mom, And he's like, I want to offer your daughter a scholarship. And she was like, and she don't know. She's like, what's that? He was like, I want a full ride to college. And my mom, my mom just turned around and looked at me. She said, what you do to get that scholarship? I said, what you mean what I did? She was like, she never really, I never talked about basketball. Like I was always in track. So I ended up getting a scholarship, and she was so happy because she was like, and one day she said, I don't know how I was gonna pay for you to go to college. And I said, well, I would have worked. She was like, no, because that was her only thing. She wanted me to be the first to get a college degree. So I am the only one to get a college degree of the siblings, actually my family. So she was just like, she didn't get a chance to see me walk across the college stage, but I'm pretty sure she knew that I was going to finish. But that was just the thing. Like I ended up it's crazy. I ended up getting a basketball scholarship on a whim, like just because I was somewhere running track on a Saturday. It was the Carver Relays, and that's when I got picked up to play basketball.
See, and that's another great example of why we preach multi-sport participation in high school, because you never know what's going to happen.
And I tell kids that. I tell them, I said, sometimes the sport that you are not suited for is the sport. The sport that you don't want to play is the sport that you're probably most suited for. And prime case, he played for Mid Southwestern. His name is Wayne Dorsey. And I told you, like, our basketball team was, I mean, we had Jamal Barney, who went to Providence. We had Wayne Dorsey. We had some kids that was just getting recruited by some big time schools. And Wayne was standing in the doorway one day, and one of my basketball players who actually did play football was getting recruited. And the college scout came to the door, and Wayne was standing in the door. And so the guy looked at him and said, you gotta be somebody's tight end, son. And he like, no, I play basketball. He said, well, son, you need to play football. Long story short, he ends up going to Mississippi Gulf. I don't know if you heard of Mississippi Gulf.
Oh, yeah.
It's a Virginia college, right? Virginia college. He goes there. He calls me, they all call me Ma, I'm playing football. Football? Like football? He ends up going there, play football, ends up getting a scholarship to Ole Miss, plays for Ole Miss, then gets drafted by the Oakland Raiders. Isn't that crazy? And I'm sitting there like, he played basketball the whole time. And he did not play football in high school.
Wow.
He never played football in high school. Never. Like, I was just so like, wow. Like, and it's like you said, it's just those things. And I reached out to that recruiter and I said to him, I said, that kid ended up playing football? He said, I know, he came and beat us. So,
that is so cool. Okay.
Yeah.
For listeners, we're visiting with Tina Queen, certified athletic administrator and the director of athletics at Reginald Lewis High School in Baltimore. We're going to take a quick break, but we're coming back. Let's hear a word from our podcast sponsor, Violet Defense. Violet Defense is the sponsor of the Educational AD podcast, and they are dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products or you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and the experience you need. Thanks again to Violet Defense for sponsoring the Educational AD podcast. Welcome back, everyone. We're visiting with Tina Queen from Reginald Lewis High School in Baltimore. Tina, you've been an athletic director for a long time. You've certainly seen some good programs, but right now I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
One of the things we like to do with the podcast is this idea of sharing best practices. So,
Uh-huh.
what are a couple of things that you do at your school with your coaches or your kids that you're particularly proud of? And when you look at, you say, boy, we really do a great job with this. Can you share some best practices?
Um, well, I work at a small school. Reginald Lewis is a 1A school, which means we have less than 400 kids. So I pride myself on hiring coaches who have the same philosophy as me as actually teaching the kids the fundamental skills and the game. You know, I'm not into having the showboat players out there doing, things on their own. I try to treat we try to treat all of our athletes the same. We do know you're going to have some standouts, some superstars, but sometimes I think if you stroke their ego too soon, they they never reach their max potential. So we try to make sure that I guess I'm a nurturer. So my coaches, although they're males, they're not the nurturer that I am, but they do understand what it takes to get the kid to the next level. So we do focus on building skills, building those skills that are needed to actually play the game. I think the game is played much better once you understand if you understand the game, if you understand the concept of the game, and if you have the skills to actually perform the game. Basketball is one of those games where so everyone thinks they can go out there and be Stephon Curry or be LeBron James. LeBron James and them put in the work. They put in the effort. They put in hours of shooting free throws, making sure that the elbow is in, follow through. They're not out there with the elbow turned to the side. That, Stephon Curry, he shoots probably 1,000 shots. It's because he's working on being consistent, proper form. So yes, sometimes they can make those fabulous plays, but you got to understand their body is conditioned to shoot the ball a certain way. They're conditioned to take the blow when they go to the basket and the follow to make the layup. So it's just certain things. You cannot be LeBron James and Kobe Bryant if you don't put in the work. Like, you have to develop the skills, and that's what my coaches and I do. We work on skills, period. And then the kids kind of buy in. Yes, they want to go out there. I want to do this. I want to do the all this. No, baby. We're gonna focus on the basics right now. So basically, that's what my school does. We really teach. We are a teaching, coaching staff. And if you can't do that, you're not going to get 1,000 LeBron James coming through the door. So we're going to have to keep dribbling with your, dribbling eyes straight. You know what I'm saying? Get the tennis ball, dribble the tennis ball. So we do all those things at my school. And we're learning, like, people, they do ask, how do you do it? Because I don't have the numbers like the Polys, the Westerns, the Dunbars. I have to take whoever comes through the door. Whereas, so I'm for real, like, my intercom messages, I take everybody, like, lottie-dottie, everybody, like, come on out. So we literally have to teach. And, I wish I had a school where so I get the girls who went to travel, they play travel volleyball. I don't get those girls. I don't get any of them. I get girls who look at me like they ain't even never touched a volleyball before. But yet, before COVID, we were the 1A region champ. And when you look, and if you see them coming through the door, you be like, how did she pull that off? Gotta go back to basics. And I found like I have a great relationship with my coaches. My coaches know that they can come to me for anything. I'm one of those, I'm one of those ADs where so if you need me coming in and clean the gym floor for you, I'm gonna come in there and clean the gym floor for you. It's nothing that's too above me. Oh, I'm the AD. I'm not cleaning that. No, what you need me to do? I'll do it. Like, you need me come in there and help? I'll come and help you. It's just, you got to stay humble in this job. You can't feel like you're above anybody. And, you want coaches that don't look down on your kids. You want coaches that have empathy for these kids, you know, and listen to them sometimes. Listen to what they're saying. You know, be a great listener. Communication is always going to be the key in any program that you have. If you can't communicate with your staff or you can't communicate with your students, then it's going to be a breakdown.
You know, I love what you talked about earlier. You said that, you know, you're a big believer in fundamentals, and then you talked about teaching skills, which is just so important. The other point that you brought up, you know, not everyone's going to coach at one of those elite schools in their career. And, you know, and I tell our coaches, and our coaches, they do a great job, just like your coaches. I say, if we had those elite kids, I wouldn't need you. Okay. I'd coach them. Okay. I'd just drive up with the bus and let them go play. But you know, I need you to teach them those skills and fundamentals. So no, it's just great stuff. Okay. Tina, another question I've been asking our athletic directors since we've been doing these the past year revolves around this idea of social awareness and social justice. And my question is this: how can we as athletic administrators, how can we do better in this area of social awareness for our kids, our parents, our community? How can we do a better job?
I don't think it's how we can. I think we need the powers to be to include us in what's going on. I really believe that, and it's crazy that you ask me that question, because I think about this often, and I'm like, when you ask a student if they can remember people from high school or stuff, they always bring up a coach.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They always bring up their coach. Man, coach so-and-so, coach. My thing is, we need to be at the table. I really believe that athletic administrators, coaches, there should be some type of, like here in Baltimore, crime is at its worst. I mean, it is just, and I know we have other issues. You have the Breonna Taylors and the George Floyds, and you have that. I please understand when I say this. I get those, but for me, it's the kid that walked through my door and never comes back because he was at the wrong place at the wrong time and he done got shot. You know, I'm tired of having to do memorials on the side of my building for my students. So yes, I do understand George Floyd and the Breonna Taylor. I know we want justice and all this stuff like that. I want justice for the kid that walked down my hallway and tells me, see you tomorrow and don't come back. His mom calls up to the school and say my son was shot. That's the justice I want. I want the justice. I want to be able to sit at a table with some of these politicians and talk about how can we change the mindsets of our kids so that, you know, so they don't pull out a gun first. You know, we can start working on conflict resolution skills. You know, why is it that I worked at Southwestern? This is no joke. Southwestern was a 4A school. We had over 2,000 kids. We had kids from Mercy Homes, Lexington, West Side, Catherine, Yale Heights, Emerson Village. All of them was different territories and gangs. Was fight all day long. After 3 o'clock, them same kids in the gym playing basketball. What happened to the conflict? What happened to, why are you not fighting now? They were sitting, they talking to each other, they high-fiving. Good job, man. As soon as they walked out the door, I can't walk with you because you live in Evanston Village, so I have to now catch the bus to go. I could really walk with you to get to my house, but I can't walk through your neighborhood because I'm from Yale Heights. But you had to go through Evanston Village to get to Yale Heights. But the one common denominator was when they was in the gym, they didn't have any issues. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Sport can be that bridge, but I think your point you brought up initially, people like ourselves, if we
Yeah,
can get a seat at the table and help with these discussions, great stuff. Thanks so much for sharing. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Well, Tina, this has just been wonderful. I didn't know you at all before this podcast, but now I feel like I've known you for a few years. Definitely want to connect with you in Denver at the national conference, but we're not done yet. Okay. We always like to wrap up with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. We've
Okay.
already established, you're an experienced AD. You've been doing this for a
Mhm.
while. But right now, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put 3 tools in their toolbox. What
Mhm.
3 tools are going to go in Tina Queen's athletic director toolbox?
Oh, that's a good one. Only 3? Oh, only 3. Ugh. So it's a new AD, and I'm only giving them 3 tools.
Right. We know that they need a lot more, but what are your 3 most important ones?
I don't know. Well, one is going to be yeah. I don't know how to answer because I want to say you can't be an athletic director without a cell phone, but I ain't gonna go that way. But I'm going to say the 3 tools that they definitely need is to make sure that they have they gotta have that communication. They gotta have that communication. They gotta definitely have they definitely have to have empathy, and I think they also have to I think good leaders have to also know how to follow. You have to also, so I'm going to say that they have to have, I don't know what skill it is, how you define that skill, but I always said that in order for me to continue to be successful in this business, I have to make sure that I keep my, I gotta stay current with all the trends. So I would just say they have to make sure they have that knowledge for education. They have to have the knowledge for athletics. So that means you have to continue to keep learning and like going out conferences and stuff. So that's the best thing. So they have to be able to be there you go. NIAAA. They gotta make sure they can communicate effectively, and they have to also make sure they have empathy. There you go.
So, hey, see, I let you get 4 in there. Okay. Okay. And those are all great examples. And all of them are in our book, The Athletic Director's Toolbox. So
Yeah.
Tina Queen, if one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain a little bit, how can they get a hold of you? What's the best email address?
T as in Tina, QUEEN 01 B as in boy, C as in cat, P as in Paul, S as in Sam, .K12.MD.US.
Okay. Very good. And I'm sure that information is also on the NIAAA website.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Tina, thanks so much for being on, and all the best in this coming school year.
Okay. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this. This is wonderful. Keep doing what you're doing because you're making a lot of us like I purposely log on to NIAAA just to see what's going on.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. To our listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of these interviews are also being uploaded to the FIAAA Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Thanks for listening today. Come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD.
Have a great day.